Hello again, my friends, and welcome to Eastern North Carolina. This is Sally from Birdwatching N.C. Recently, I spent some time at some of my favorite wildlife refuges in the Outer Banks and in the coastal plain in search of weird ducks and other interesting species of wintertime birds. Traveling from Pungo Lake, the Alligator River National Wildlife Refuge, to the Pea Island National Wildlife Refuge over a 2.5-day time frame, I encountered all kinds of beautiful birds along the way. In my opinion, the eastern regions of North Carolina are the crown jewel of wintertime birding activities here in the Tar Heel State. Beginning in late October, every year, thousands of waterfowl migrate through and into North Carolina, putting on an awe-inspiring display and sparking the excitement of birders and nature enthusiasts across the area. What makes this region so attractive to so many thousands of birds? With vast farmlands filled with spilled grain, large open lakes and shallow flooded-out fields and marshy areas, our eastern counties offer a nice variety of foraging spots and roosting locations for tired and hungry birds. Here the flocks may find refuge from predators and plenty of food to eat so that they can fuel up and gain the fat reserves needed to return to their breeding grounds in Canada and the Arctic come spring. If you've ever wanted to see thousands of gorgeous birds all in one spot at the same time, this is the place to be. Ready to see what I found? Let's get started. I was thrilled to see so many American coots all in one place while birding here in the Outer Banks. There were hundreds of these little glossy black birds swimming amongst a flock of redhead, gadwall, pintail, swans, geese, and widgeons. It was neat to watch them bicker with one another for food and chase away the much larger ducks and swans in an attempt to steal a meal. American coots are social species that live in flocks. In fact, this unlikely relative of the sandhill crane are the only members of the rail family to live in groups. They dive frequently in search of a snack of small aquatic animals like fish or tadpoles, insects, and fresh green vegetation found in the bottom of ponds and relatively shallow lakes like this one here at Pea Island. Coots are also rather noisy. They've got a wide repertoire of grunting, croaking, and squawking noises that they use to communicate with one another as they move throughout the flock. You can find them here in North Carolina as they all come together in huge migratory flocks gathering in large numbers in freshwater ponds, lakes, and waterfowl impoundments. Look for them in the Piedmont to the coastal plain regions from about mid-September through early May. Aren't they cute? I just love them. Look at this gorgeous American white pelican. Isn't he awesome looking? I spotted him along with 3 of his friends preening on the North Pond at the Pea Island National Wildlife Refuge. Second only to the California condor, white pelicans are one of North America's largest birds. He was truly an epic sight in flight as he glided effortlessly overhead on his nearly 10-foot wingspan. American white pelicans are found in the coastal regions of North Carolina, hunting for a meal over the open ocean, over the beaches and above freshwater lakes and saltwater marshes throughout the winter months. They dine primarily on fish, caught by dipping its bill and scooping its prey into the pouch. Often, small flocks of white pelicans will employ a cooperative feeding strategy, where a group of them will drive fish into the shallow waters where they're much easier to catch. White pelicans consume large quantities of fish, sometimes eating as much as 40% of their own body weight in a day. Their hefty size and appetites do come at a cost, though, so they've adopted an important way to support their large bodies and vast caloric intake. Because they're such large birds, it's super important that they economize any unnecessary weight. Therefore, their bones are hollow and very light, making up less than 1 pound of the bird's total weight of around 14 pounds, allowing for an overall much more efficient dietary lifestyle. To see one of these incredible birds up close was truly awe-inspiring. Definitely a few moments in the field that I won't soon forget. Now here's the duck that I was pleased to see, the American Widgeon. A dabbler and upland grazer feeding primarily on aquatic plants, seeds, waste grains, and small invertebrates, they prefer to roost and feed in shallow lakes, ponds, and marshy areas, which are surrounded by dry, grassy fields. The American Widgeon's breeding range extends from the state of Alaska south through Canada's prairie provinces and down through the United States prairie pothole region. Each autumn, they fly south to spend the winter in Mexico and the Caribbean islands, as well as in locations along the Pacific, Gulf, and Atlantic coasts here in the United States. A large population of these gorgeous birds spends the cooler months right here in eastern North Carolina. Pea Island, the Alligator National Wildlife Refuge, and Pungo Lake are great places to find them throughout the winter. They will be here through early April, so there's plenty of time for you to get out there and see them for yourself. One of the fun and challenging aspects of birding is trying to find a feather gem in dense brush. It can be quite difficult to pick out the outlines of hidden birds. Even larger ones like this American bittern can be hidden quite easily behind just a few inches of tall grass. Can you see them? Here's a closer look. Pretty crazy, huh? Even in ideal habitats like this one here at Pea Island, the American bittern is a relatively uncommon sight here throughout the year in North Carolina. It's unclear to me as for the reasons why this is. It's possible that their low population numbers are a factor due to a decrease in verified sightings, or the fact that they are secretive creatures, made only more difficult to observe by their impressive camouflage pattern of plumage. Either way, I felt very lucky to be able to get some video and take a few pictures of this remarkable bird. Had I been able to catch a photograph of this one out in the open, you would have seen that these medium-sized, heron-like birds have a stout body, a long-ish, chunky neck, and are covered in a plumage of brown, buff, and white colors. They really are quite beautiful. The American bittern is an incredible hunter. It freezes motionless or walks at an excruciatingly slow pace. But when it locates its prey, it strikes with lightning speed. Their diet consists of large quantities of fish, but also feeds on snakes, amphibians, insects, and small mammals. Usually bitterns hunt from dusk to dawn, only rarely looking for food during the day, which is why I feel incredibly blessed to have seen one out in broad daylight hunting in the reeds. I have been told that if there be an open body of water here in North Carolina, there you will find a bald eagle. Over the many years, I can attest this statement as being absolutely true, as I've seen bald eagles gliding overhead in nearly every region of the state. This one was spotted getting a drink of water from a puddle along a dirt road at the Alligator River National Wildlife Refuge. I'd never seen one sitting on the ground before and enjoyed a few minutes watching this impressive bird from a relatively short distance. After a bit of time had passed, it took off flying low across the grass, right in front of a large black bear snoozing away in a sunlit field. The bald eagle is a year-round resident found in areas all across North Carolina. Somewhat more common in the central parts of the state, they are known to nest in increasingly larger numbers in the Piedmont region. Here along the coastal plain and shoreline, resident migratory populations of bald eagles are often found hunting in the skies above the marshes, lakes, sounds, and especially during the wintertime. Their diet mainly consists of fish, but they will also have a go at taking down an unsuspecting duck, swan, or goose if they feel that they can take them. Areas like the Pea Island National Wildlife Refuge, Lake Mattamuskeet, and Pungo Lake provide particularly rich hunting grounds for these iconic large raptors. I watched several eagles going after ducks throughout my visit. Freaking awesome birds. While walking along the beach on Pea Island, I spotted a small flock of brown pelicans feeding in the surf. It was really cool to watch this large bird taking turns diving down one after another to scoop up the unseen fish below the waves. Unlike the American white pelican, which often feeds in fresh water, the brown pelican almost exclusively hunts for fish in salt and brackish waters. Like the white pelicans, they dive like darts into the water below, mouth agape using their pouch to scoop up their underwater prey. Brown pelicans live year-round in eastern North Carolina. Populations in New England and on the northwest coast also migrate south to spend the winters in central California and mid-Atlantic coasts. Their preferred habitats are around coastal beaches, marshes, and lagoons. Although they are a relatively common sight soaring low in the air above the Atlantic, Pacific, and Gulf beaches throughout the United States, brown pelicans spend a lot of time on tiny small islands away from populated areas. Here they will nest in large colonies among the sand dunes, thickets of shrubs and trees, and in the mangroves. To see one of these marvelous creatures up close was really neat. Check out these handsome northern pintail ducks. The drakes are easy to identify when swimming amongst large mixed flocks with their chestnut-colored heads and namesake pointy tails. The northern pintail boasts the widest range of any duck seen in the United States. They are found on every continent except Antarctica and are known to winter and breed on all continents except for Australia and Antarctica. During the wintertime, large flocks of pintail can be seen at many of our coastal refuge regions here in North Carolina. A surface-feeding duck, they dine on aquatic plants, seeds, grass, and aquatic animals. Their long, elegant necks enable them to reach deeper than any other species of dabbling ducks, for seeds, roots, and tubers of underwater plants. During the wintertime, they're also commonly spotted in eastern North Carolina, feeding on leftover grains found in the open farm fields situated near water. They'll stick around here until late April and will return again next September, once more to spend the winter in the Tar Heel state. Aren't they lovely? This sharp-looking bird is called a redhead duck. As their namesake implies, they are quite easily identified among large mixed flocks of waterfowl sporting that crimson-red plumage. I spotted quite a few of them here at the Pea Island National Wildlife Refuge, swimming in the North Pond near the Visitor Center. Unlike many other species of diving ducks, redheads are more often spotted displaying dabbling duck behavior by dipping their head underwater or tipping up to feed on plants and small invertebrates. During the wintertime, they can be found in slow-moving or still bodies of freshwater, foraging on plant seeds along the shoreline, such as tubers, grass, pondweeds, wild celery, bulrushes, water lilies, and even wild rice under the water. Their breeding range extends from central Alaska through southern Canada to the northern regions of the United States from Washington to Maine. In September, these ducks migrate to winter in the warmer climates found in central Mexico, along the coast of California, to the Gulf, and of course along the Atlantic coast, including right here in eastern North Carolina. You can find them in most of our southeastern coastal wildlife refuges through mid-April. These handsome guys are well worth the effort to find them. This is a gorgeous bird with a somewhat confusing name, the ring-necked duck. The adult male has a glossy purple and blue, greenish-black head, a black back, and a well-defined gray side, with a white stripe of plumage between the sides and its breasts. Their bills are a light gray with a white ring and a black tip. Their namesake cinnamon-colored neck ring is usually not visible, but occasionally you can see it if the lighting is just right. Look for them foraging for a meal in large ponds and wide lakes with forested shorelines. You can see ring-necked ducks from mid-October to late March and early April throughout the state. Interestingly, they usually forego inhabiting the deeper middle portions of large lakes and open waters, preferring to find a meal much closer to the shoreline. This makes them a bit easier to see and photograph than other species of diving ducks, which is something I'm immensely grateful for. The snow goose is a cheerful sight during the winter months here in North Carolina. Flying in by the thousands in wide arrangements of the V formation, upon their approach the flocks morph into something best described as a bird tornado, as the birds land in the water and in the fields in a swirl of flapping wings and loud honks. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get any decent, close-range photos of these gorgeous birds on this trip, as they flew overhead only to settle across the vast expanse of Pungo Lake. Still, it was pretty cool to see so many of them coming in for a landing all at once. One of the more impressive migratory species encountered during the wintertime is the Tundra Swan. Every autumn, hundreds of thousands of these large birds make the trip from the Colville River Delta region of Alaska's North Slope all the way down south to settle in areas of eastern Virginia, Maryland, and in the coastal regions of North Carolina. Swans that breed south of the Brooks Range in the wetlands of western Alaska are West Coast birds in the winter, feeding in the farm fields of Washington, Oregon, and in the Central Valley of California. I spotted a ton of them at Pungo Lake, the Alligator National Wildlife Refuge, and the Pea Island National Wildlife Refuge while on my trip, and was really happy to see that they had made their yearly return to the Tar Heel state. The Tundra Swan is a large bird weighing between 10 and 18 pounds with a wingspan of around 5 feet. They are very vocal and can be heard calling out to one another from a great distance away when approaching a flock. Their migration route and timing is tied to their diet and their constant need for food to fuel them for their long journey of both spring and fall migration. These gorgeous birds are often spotted in open farm fields and on freshwater lakes and ponds, feeding on aquatic plants, roots, fallen grains, and even some soft shellfish. When looking for an underwater snack, the swans will tip their bodies and extend their long neck and head down into the water to clip off a bite from the plants below the surface. As seen here, they also stamp their huge webbed feet onto the bottom of the shallow pond to stir up a possible meal hidden beneath the mud. Tundra swans may be found from late October through early March here in North Carolina. If you've never witnessed this bird's migration, you've got to get out there and see it for yourself at least once. It's truly an epic moment to see so many of these beautiful creatures all in one place. Another familiar sight along North Carolina's beaches during the wintertime is the Sanderling. These little cuties are very entertaining to watch as they scurry up and down the shoreline in search of a meal. Found mostly in eastern areas of our state, remarkably, Sanderlings have been found as far west as Mount Mitchell, North Carolina. Sanderlings breed in the high Arctic and happen to be one of the most widespread wintering shorebirds in the world. You can find them here in the Tar Heel state throughout most of the year, which is a lovely thing indeed. Well, that about wraps it up from the Outer Banks of eastern North Carolina. I had such a great time birding here that I'm planning on hosting a few more group trips before spring arrives, just so I can have a few more opportunities to enjoy all of these wonderful birds. I can't wait to hit the beaches and marshes again soon. If you like this content, please subscribe to Birdwatching N.C., hit that bell, and share this video with your bird-loving friends. Thanks for watching, and until next time, happy birding!